This is the pre-show. Nothing. So I'm just going to play the song now, and we'll get.
There's a sign on the highway. There's a fork in the road. A lifetime of lessons learned don't mean nothing, it shows. Armchair doctor, experts making all the rules, selling us their theories while they take us all for fools. And there's nowhere left to hide on that freedom road. Don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live on that freedom road. Get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give, I got no more to give. There's a cop in the distance behind a big box tree. There's a crime being committed somewhere, but the radar gun's on me. A quiet quarter afternoon, I'm doing 105, like a fat kid on a seesaw, all tilted to one side. And there's nowhere left to hide, and no one's putting up a fight on that freedom road. Don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live on that freedom road. Get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give, I got no more to give. Clipboard, he's just out of school. He tells me that I'm doing wrong, something he could never do. The writing in a textbook ain't no substitute for life. The rules and regulations, they're just dumbing down our minds, and there's nowhere left to hide, and no one's putting up a fight. They're all just waiting round to die on that freedom road. Don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live on that freedom road. Get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give on that freedom road. Don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live on that freedom road. Get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give, I got no more to give.
That's the great David Rakuti with Kelly in the back. And we filmed that. It took us a few hours, but it was good fun to do. And how are you, Dr. Oos, before we bring in our beloved
I'm
farmer.
good, Michael. Yeah, seeing Kelly in the back there was my favourite part. But it's a great song.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
bring
well,
him in.
yeah,
Oh,
good to see it.
now, I'm just gonna say while he's here, this is Andrew Beale. Now, Andrew Beale is rare in my life because he's one of the only people who knew me before COVID who still interacts with me occasionally. I lost everyone else. But Andrew used to have a theater, or he has a theater that he built. He runs with a committee in his town, and that's how we first met. But during COVID, he was anti-Dan, and so we grew closer then. But to everyone watching, this man here who looks like cross between Wurzel Gummidge and someone else, and he took a paddock, just a normal paddock, and built a dairy farm from it. And he is incredibly successful farmer. And now he comes from the small hamlet of Cororook, and he's trying to re-energize that. He's got the op shop going. He's got a bakery, I believe it should be going by now. He's got a theater and restaurant and everything there. He's really dedicated to bringing life back to this little hamlet. And he's done it more. I know people helped him, but he's the visionary. He's the driving force, and he's a very wise guy, very easygoing, and very shrewd. And so he's the thought. We reached out to him today to see if he'd talk about how the petrol crisis could affect farmers and could affect our future, even with famine and stuff. People are talking about that. So, Andrew, thank you for coming on, brother. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure. Good to catch up.
Yeah, cool. So let's begin. What do you think of the petrol crisis? Are you concerned about it? Do you think you're able to ride it out, and even in your area, farming area?
I guess for a lot of farmers, it could be difficult, especially cropping farmers that use a lot of machinery. On a dairy farm, we're not as intensive with tractors and machinery. We do use quite a bit, but nowhere near as much as cropping. I think overall, my view of the situation is that to have to pay a bit extra at the bowser or on the delivery for fuel is a small price to pay for what might be a greater outcome. And I think the greater outcome is the freedom of people in Iran. I think that's where it all goes back to, and that's the way I look at it. So the sacrifice that I'm making, the few bucks I'm missing out on, I just take it back to where it's originated and why is it happening, and I'm just praying that good comes out of what's been instigated over there, and that a horrible regime is put to an end, and the good people of Iran can prosper as a democratic nation.
Hey, you there? You didn't tell me he was a Zionist. I'm another fucking Zionist on this show. Join the Zionist club. Yeah, you can't. You cannot have an opinion nowadays. Not even in the movement. You can't tell it. Yeah, look, I'm the same. What about you, Paul?
I'm not as convinced that this is about the Iranian people.
Oh, it's not. They're beneficiaries.
I don't even know if they're a beneficiary. I think they're having the shit bombed out of them. And that's the playbook that the Western America's done in previous wars. They did that to Vietnam. They dropped multiples of World War II level bombs, and they still lost. And so I think this is just a big power play for resources. This is the central banks playing their games, and they're willing to sacrifice any number of people to achieve it. So, I think I see them as talking points. I don't believe them. I don't believe them for a moment. You don't like imagine if all of a sudden, we would be having the bombs dropping everywhere, to liberate us from Albo. I mean, we do need to be liberated from Albo and these corrupt politicians, but it would just be suffering. I don't think war's the answer for anything. So,
which is my point. Our suffering here with a little bit of change in the diesel price is absolutely nothing to what's going on over there. And so I don't think we've really got a right to whinge as a Western country about the price of diesel and because there is suffering going on over there, and that's undeniable. But whether something good comes out of it or not, I mean, if you look at what Bush did and those other leaders of the USA that took out Afghanistan, Iraq, Gaddafi's mob, and it was all for. We know it was all for the oil and all for the wealth of one nation, not meaning one nation.
Not the party.
So I think I think it's them that we need to think about, and not so much us.
I was still thinking about ourselves, Andrew, because I actually think that we're going to suffer greatly because of this. So to the point where we're going to go, fuck those people overseas, we're suffering so much that we want it to end. I hope I'm wrong, but look, the other day, my emotions have been on a roller coaster. I saw Trump going, "Oh, it's over, we won, we've agreed to everything," and then, of course, the Iranians said, "No, we didn't agree to any of this," and the ceasefire only lasted hours, and it's closed again. And every day it gets closed, the global famine, economic collapse gets closer. So I'm really glad that there are farmers who can grow food with less. I sent a tweet to Joel Salatin. He's a biodynamic. I think you call it biodynamic. Regenerative farmer. Sorry, a regenerative farmer in the US. And because I'm thinking we need to learn how to do more with less. We need to grow. We definitely need to grow food. But look, Albo has come to save the day. Did you see this?
The government's new strategic reserve powers, with the support that my government has secured an additional 100 million litres of diesel from 2 shipments, one from Brunei, where I was yesterday, and one from South Korea. This is the first of many expected shipments secured under the government's new strategic reserve powers with the support of Export Finance Australia.
Now, to put that in context,
also called begging.
To put that in context, Chris says the PM proudly announced securing 1 additional day's worth of Australian diesel demand. Weak men lead to hard times. This is what I mean. We've got the level of incrapification of our politicians is pretty intense, and so I expect. I feel like we should be continuing to be in the brace position, and I think the role of the farmer is more important than ever, because we'll need to grow food. I'm expecting that they're setting us up for famine, and that's what I mean. It's not about whether women can walk around without hijabs in Iran. This is the global reset, and
well, can I have my say? Because what I think's happening, I actually think everyone says Trump's an idiot. What if he's not? What if he's a high-stakes gambler, and he listens to all his advisors around him, and he takes what he does, and the reason he's made this decision, from what I've seen, has got nothing to do with Iran. If he can block the Straits of Hormuz, then all the people that America owes money to can't get their oil. So they have to get their oil from somewhere else. And the biggest supplier is the USA. So suddenly he's got all this pressure of having to pay back $39 trillion off their back. And China, too, has their fuel sort of curtailed to a degree. So there's talk that Trump might keep it going forever to do that. I think the Iranian people, there's just a chance, might just be the beneficiaries of it. Like, there's always winners and losers in anything. And maybe they might have a chance. Because from the ones I've talked to, they have been living under an intense regime. It's not just about not wearing the hijab. It's literally about being killed. So,
I'm not saying that that's not happening. I'm not saying that there's not a totalitarian regime in Iran. I'm just worried about the totalitarian regime at home.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And the interesting thing about talking about Iran is in 1972, they were like us. In 70s, we probably could have gone there and had a great time. People from Europe used to go there holidaying. And then this regime takes over. And suddenly, now they're all living like they are. And if you think it can't happen in Australia, look at the hate speech laws. People are getting thrown in jail now for a 40-second speech. We had that Nazi boy Joel was in jail for 114 days just for freedom of speech. So it's kind of possible to happen here if we don't call it out and stop it in its tracks. And I think that's what we've been trying to do for the last 6 years. Anyway, we've got a guest. We should speak to him. There's what do you think after all these 6 years of watching Australia, Andrew? You've always been clear in your thinking. What do you think? You absolutely had a real dislike of Mr. Andrews, and which you conveyed through painting. Which if we posted those, we'd all be taken off the air. But what are your thoughts now after 6 years of watching everything? You think it's gone back to normal, or do you think we're still heading somewhere dodgy?
No, it certainly hasn't gone back to normal. It's going to take. This is why I think a lot of people are hinging their trust and hopes in this upcoming party, One Nation. And I mean, when it comes around, that's 100% where I'll be going. Because what else? What have we got to lose? Will it feed votes back into the back to Labor? Well, that just depends on how strong the Conservative parties are, combining preferences and that sort of thing. But I don't think it's over. I think we've still got a long way to go, because they're still wanting to pass laws that are difficult to negotiate if you get yourself into a position where you're against what the government wants you to be. So
it's like these ASIO laws that are coming in.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be for sabotage. If they believe sabotage, like say the refinery. Hello, it's not me. I'm in Perth. There's the your drone from Darwin was there. Maybe ask him. There's so they got sabotage. We were just reading about it now. Actually, I've actually got it.
Yeah, I reposted about that because originally it was meant to sundown. It was meant to time out. I think it was originally posted in 2003 after 9/11, and we had an MP called Albanese who was saying this is like Goebbels level stuff, and he was opposing it, and it took weeks of debate to get through, but then it was time limited. And what they want to do now is they've rushed through in a couple of days that it doesn't time out, that it goes on, and they've changed the wording a bit now, so to allow for dissent potentially to become within Australia.
So it's border integrity. Australia, if you threaten the Australian attacks on the Australian defence system, including sabotage, but then it's the promotion of communal violence, and that's vague. What does that mean? You know what I mean? That's You know?
Well, you only got to look at that fella that was holding up that sign that said from the sea something to the ocean. He changed
from
one
the river to the sea.
from the river. Yeah, but he made it from the river to the ocean, and they still said it was the same as the river to the sea. So there you go. There's a fine or jail or whatever. I think they're drawing long bows to pull everyone into the net, and so it's got a long way to go. And I think if these sort of laws keep building and keep getting through, it'll be a terrible thing for our country. When they first passed that law and it had the sunset clause, they convinced everyone, but it's got a sunset clause. It's going to be okay. It's only for this period. It's just to solve one problem, and so they get you used to it, and then they bring it in as a permanent thing later on, and that's their style. You know, it's all smoke and mirrors to try and get the population to follow along.
And if they arrest you and take you away and interrogate you, and you can't say no, and there are limits to your legal representation, you can't talk about it. You can't say, hey, I was whisked away, a black bag was put over my head, and they interrogated me for
that's right.
6 hours. If you even say it to your partner or your family, you risk going back to jail. This is what I mean. It's these are not ordinary laws. They're really quite egregious wartime type of powers. That's why they should be opposed. But of course, maybe we are at war.
That's what I put up. Yeah, well, that's what I put up. I put up a thing recently saying Sun Tzu says the greatest war you can have is where your opponent doesn't realize they're at war. And when you look at what's happened the last 5 years, you know, a lot of people were forced to take a vaccine against a virus that couldn't kill them with a vaccine that could. And we've got, I don't know what's happening in your area, Andrew, but all we ever hear from people everywhere is the amount of people is sick and dying around them. And the kids, the young people who are infertile, you know, I
keep seeing it pop up. I think the country that's probably the worst that I see is with young boys or young men, you know, early 20s in late teens, is Ireland. Every second day I see another face of a kid that's dropped dead suddenly in Ireland, and it's really frightening for those countries. But hell, you must have to kill a lot of people to wake people up.
Yeah.
Because, you know, all the people that you see, and it still doesn't wake the population up, because you look at the comments and you think, and 90% of them are still people calling us tinfoil hat wearers and, you know, that sort of thing. I think they must have a bloody blindfold on.
You're an entrepreneur, though, Andrew, and you really are. You're more than a farmer. You're an entrepreneur, and the only way you can be an entrepreneur is you have to live in as much truth as you can, because you're just constantly problem solving. And if you couldn't see the problem for what it is, you couldn't solve it. If you thought, you know, because you got a woke filter or a hate filter of Trump or derangement syndrome or something, that would prevent you from actually doing what you're doing. So do you think this is why maybe you managed to have a different view of what was happening, because you actually critically think your way through life? It's just a fine-tuned tool for you.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit built in. My upbringing, maybe, I don't know, but like a lot of people, it was just never going to agree with a certain number of people, and there must be something in the genetics or the makeup of that group of people, because it's not like we were all talking about coming together before this happened, and then we all just came together because we all said, what's going on? You know, this is not right, and we all agreed on the same thing and the same values. So I don't think you need to be. I don't think it's anything to do with being an entrepreneur. Yes, people. I think it is to do with being able to critically think. I think that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, do you know, the last week I've been thinking a lot about freedom and liberty. And I rediscovered John Locke, who wrote in the 17th century. And he talked about life, liberty, and property, and then about nearly 200 years later, Frederick Bastiat came about and echoed those same things, personality or individuality, and again property. And I tend to think that we've been enslaved for the longest time already. We've forgotten what liberty is. When we have to go back, a few hundred years to understand what was the basic human condition, where life meant the life to be who you are as an individual, to use your effort in the natural environment with the unknown bounty, of the planet, and make goods, make property. And now we're in a world where we're on the brink of this great reset, where the WEF says you will own nothing and you'll be happy. In other words, you will be a slave. You will not have property. It runs at the very basis of what the law was meant to protect: life and property. And what have we seen in the last 5 years? It's completely inverted. The law has been used to just further enslave, and now it's trying to even enslave our minds by prescribing the words that we can speak for threat of imprisonment. We're so far down. This is why I'm a bit dark, as you can tell this week.
Cool, man.
Because
it just makes me laugh. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because I've been realizing just how far we've strayed from, and like Michael was saying, as a farmer, you have to deal with reality. And I think the freedom community are people who just were going, nah, people aren't dropping dead all around us. This doesn't make sense. This is bullshit. We're being told bullshit. And I think the world is also starting to, significant proportions are realizing woke and DI was some sort of nonsense that destroyed merit. We've just had so many obviously bad ideas the last 5 years, and I'm anxious to see the bad ideas stop. Which would mean being congruent with reality. And this oil, what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz and the reduction in the flow of crude is that's the cold shower of reality for us, because we've got a government that believes in net zero, and we've been quipping, oh yeah, net zero, that you're the carbon that they're trying to reduce. But net zero, without energy, nothing runs. We won't have an economy. We won't have food. And then throw all into that the AI and the threats on unemployment, that they can replace the mental jobs with AI. I think it's time to get. We have to call out. We continue to call out all the bad ideas. Go woke, go broke, DI. Didn't earn it. I like that, John. And so in that light, I'm like the claim that America can support the world. Do you know America is a net importer of crude? I mean, yes, it refines stuff. It produces all this shale and other products, and yes, now it's got some streams from Venezuela, which is the thick stuff. But there's a lot of, it's more than just diesel, although diesel is crucial. It's fertilizer, it's sulfur, it's helium that we need for our scanners and for
fertilizer would be a good issue to talk about, because
Well, you won't get, you don't, what I'm saying is oils ain't oils, like the ad said. Things are being obfuscated. See, the claim that the US is now going to take over from that, I think is dubious. So I'm just calling it out. I'm just.
Man, we don't know. We're all mushrooms. I was going to say though, I don't know why the WHO doesn't use me as a poster child, because I own literally nothing, and I'm quite happy. Was there. There's Andrew. There's two things I want to go. One about fertilizer, but first off, you said a profound thing to me once when I was on your farm, which is why you talked to me about cows, herds of cows, and how there are different things within the cows, from the scouts to a leader. Can you talk about that? Because I wonder if this equates too, because we're still animals, to human herds. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So what the way a cow herd works, and it can be viewed on a dairy farm, especially because every day the herd walks up to the dairy. Now, when those cows are let go to the dairy without any duress, just open the gate and wander all through, they'll sort themselves out into a ranking the ranking is that the scouts, which are normally the cows, they're not the biggest frame cows, they're maybe a little bit younger, but strong cows, they'll make their way to the front of the herd. And then at the back of the herd, you'll have the old cows that are a bit weaker and more vulnerable. They'll be pushed to the back. You see other cows say, you're not coming past me, you're staying back there, there's your place. So there's a pecking order that happens. And in the middle, the strongest of the herd are always there in the middle. They don't try and break their way to the front and get to where everyone's going first. They stay in the middle where technically they're protected. And I think that's something that's come down through the ages, that stayed with them genetically from when they were hunted and by wolves or whatever they were hunted by. If they were preyed upon, those weak cows at the back would be taken. The cows up the front, leading them to new pastures or whatever, they were strong cows, but fast cows could escape injury, could be on the lookout, could watch out for danger, alert the herd to danger. But the main cows, the strongest cows, the breeders were all protected and kept at the middle. And they knew that was where they had to be.
Didn't you say there was also like they'd have a fringe dweller, like some cow that was like an anti-vaxxer cow that would sort of stay on the edge?
You always get one that wants to get away.
Now, the other thing, what about fertilizer now? I know you're a dairy farmer, but do you know much about fertilizer and how necessary it is now? Or have we actually reached the point where we need it to grow food?
A lot of farming systems do require fertilizer. There's no doubt about it. But fertilizer doesn't always come from the back of a truck and down the highway. On our farm, we produce our own and we compost every waste that's produced on the farm. And you think, well, what waste have you got on the farm? In a dairy, you produce a lot of waste through the manure from the cows, because they do shit a lot. And when you're going to milk them, there's no doubt about that. Every milk in the yard has to be hosed up. All that waste goes into a pond. It settles in that pond, and the water runs off into another pond. But the waste solid is excavated out of the first pond and put into a big pile where it's left to dry, and then the shed where all the calves are reared, or where the cows calve down, all that has to be cleaned out, a couple of times a year, and that's all taken down and put with this effluent that comes out of the pond. It's mixed up. It makes a great fertilizer. We'd probably make, 600 tonne a year of our own fertilizer from our compost, and that's spread across all our farm. And I think that's So that's what we do. Dairy farms are really a net importer of nutrient because dairy farms only send away milk. They buy in a lot of grain. We buy a lot of grain, and we tend to be a lucky farmer where we're getting all the nutrients from that poor farm up the road. In the northern country where it's drier, where they're growing grain, we're getting their nutrients, and because we buy it in all the times to feed the cows. They're the ones that have got to put fertiliser on. It's more difficult for them to replace the nutrient to the ground like we can. Not only do we put it on mechanically back onto the ground, but the cows are crapping all over the ground too. The bloke that's harvesting his wheat every year, or his oats or barley, he's harvesting it, and then he'll harvest the straw, and he'll sell the straw off because the farmer wants that, and he'll sell the wheat off because either it's going to flour or it's going to cow feed. So he's mining his soil all the time, whereas so he's got to replace that.
It doesn't get to heal itself, the soil, is what you're saying.
That's right. And I mean, I know there's a lot of farmers out there that that do farm organically and do farm successfully with the wheat farms, but largely the way the operations are run, those big wheat farmers and things do put the fertiliser on.
Yeah.
And
Trish did this, said this dead soils need fertilizer, and I think that's the thing about Joe Salatin. He talks about regenerative. He has all the different plants and animals there and living soil. We used to have living soil, but if you strip mine the living soil, then if you want to keep growing on that, it really becomes like a sterile growth medium, which needs these chemical inputs to get a decent yield, and that's the problem when you don't have fertilizer. That too much of our agriculture is not regenerative, and so requires you've got strip mined soil, which needs these external inputs to actually grow. Does that sound right to you, Andrew?
Yeah. Look, I think the most important thing for the soils isn't so much the nutrients that's supplied by these fertilizers. It's about the bacteria, the microbes that live under the soil, in the soil, that are the soil. If you can get that right, even with low phosphorus, low potassium, low sulfur, everything else low, if you've got that right, you're at least partly ahead of the game. If you can have all the nutrient in the world, the MP, K, and S, and all on the ground, if you haven't got the microbes working for you, then you're not really not going to get a good healthy plant. If you can get both. Yeah, but you'll do really well. But the microbes are really, really important. And down here where we farm, we've got the benefit of we don't use any chemicals, so we haven't killed our microbes. We're always encouraging microbes. I think I've been farming regenerative agriculture long before they coined the term.
Had a name for it.
Yeah.
Why was that, Andrew? Why did you decide to do that? Why didn't you just go the chemical route like everyone else?
I don't know. It might be something to do with that same bloody gene that made me not want to take the jab. Yeah, don't know.
It reminds me of humans and our microbiome. We never realized that the bacteria in our gut was so crucial to our health. To our immunity, to our state of mind, and to our very health. So it's the same thing, whether it's a microcosm of this macrocosm, having healthy soil.
I think too. I think one other thing, Michael, I think that's important with now we're talking about sort of organic type. I don't like to call it organic because I don't like the term organic, but regenerative agriculture, which I think is a good term for the way we farm. I think people need to go back to the land and learn the land. Everyone should be taught how to grow stuff, how to deal with the land itself, and get a good understanding of that. People should come out to the country and repopulate the country areas and the towns and help the towns grow, because we don't only need, that's what the world needs. We need people on the land to grow the food. And getting back to your statement, Paul, about the lack of fertilizer is going to mean lack of food. Not necessarily. I think it's just that we don't have the people that know how to grow it.
Oh, I see. So it's a lack of knowledge that we're losing, because everyone's just relying.
It's the knowledge we're losing, and the people and the locality. Why should we be shipping bloody grain from here to Bullamakanka and then another grain from Bullamakanka coming back? It's stupid. We need to go back to prosperous local farmers supplying local areas.
Can I go somewhere else just for a sec? Because they're always telling farmers how to be, and farmers have to modernize, and they're always. But what would you say of how the government's running the country? Not, and I mean economically, because you're a shrewd farmer. You really are. It's incredible what you've achieved. So if you're looking at the country just from fundamental basics, what do you see we're doing wrong?
Well, I think if I was a corrupt man, and some people might say, yeah, corrupt, you bastard, get off. But I think our government has been infiltrated by people that are corrupt. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Lying, thieving bastards is what a lot of them are. And you've only got to look at Daniel Andrews. Even before he became the premier of this state, he was a lying, thieving prick. That bike boy incident, we all know that most likely that he was driving the bloody car, and most likely he hit that boy square on and knocked him off his bike, then bullshitted his way out of it all. We know that. And then he became the premier of friggin' Victoria. So if we were running our farms with corrupt, miserable bastards like that, then we'd all go broke, and none of you would want to eat the food that we produced.
Good point. So you think corruption is the first thing to attack?
100%. Boot them out. And this is what Pauline's working on.
Well, it is interesting at the moment, because it's hard to understand the decisions they make. I mean, they've just given millions to Afghanistan, and yet we have scores of Australians living in their car now. And you've got a petrol crisis, so they're being told to move on, but they can't afford the fuel to move on. And they're being attacked like they're the problem, but they're just a symptom of a greater problem. Because, to be honest, we're sitting on this incredible, it's a gold mine, really. We've got everything. We got lithium, uranium. We all know this. Oil, everything every other country would want is beneath our feet. And yet we owe it over $1 trillion, $1.3 trillion. And now we're talking about famine. And it's surely it's clear to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that we have just been absolutely, if it's not corruption, poorly managed. And then the only other option is it's just corruption, and they've sold us off. I can't see any other way to explain it.
And you've got to look at the $15 billion that they don't seem to want to talk about. $15 billion. The state of Victoria could well do with $15 billion.
And where Andrew's from, there's a lot of old factories there. It's quite sad to go through. There's a heyday, isn't there, Andrew? There's a big one near you. It's just sitting there rusting away. I think it's somewhere else inhabits it now. But even as you're going around Colac, you're coming other huge factories that are just sitting there dormant. And so this is the end of globalization, where basically all the manufacturing is going. We can't even make anything here, really,
but you need cheap energy to do that. And there was a tweet by Matt Canavan, which reminded me, Australia is like the Saudi Arabia of energy resources. But 96% of that or 95% of that is coal and uranium, both things we're not allowed to use. So we've got a massive energy resources, but we're not allowed to use it. And so we're number 2 in the world now in natural gas, but we're not allowed to have gas cookers, because every other country that's rich in a resource, the people get cheap energy and just super cheap. In Australia, we've got all this natural gas, but we can't use it. We've got all this uranium and coal, but we're not allowed. We're not allowed. It goes overseas, and if we had a campaign for extracting the uranium, building the technology for small modular nuclear reactors, which are totally different technology. They can't melt down like the old ones. They can be built small. They can produce huge amounts of baseline power, unlike the windmills and the solar panels. The coal, it speaks for itself. It all goes to China to feed their industrial. But it's our one saving grace at the moment that at least the lights should stay on while we're scrambling for $12 potatoes.
Can I ask you, Andrew, as far as I know, you don't have any turbines on your farm, but you've probably been approached to put them on because we've seen them around your area. Why haven't you gone that way, and what are your thoughts on them?
No, I haven't. I've never been approached to put turbines on, and I would fight tooth and nail against it, like a lot of farmers are currently. I just think that we don't need it. I think it's just it's an ideology that that the a faction of the Greens sort of sowed in everyone's head at the. And somehow or other it started to take off. I think all the population has been really dumbed down to believe stupid shit. And even on our own side, though, even on the freedom movement side, there was a lot of people that were pretty dumb, some of the things they were saying, which didn't sort of reflect too good on our movement. And it sort of made you want to distance yourself a bit at times. But I suppose, staying in your own truth is all you can do. But I was walking around the little township of Camperdown today, and I was admiring things like the clock tower in Camperdown. And there's this beautiful big brick, tall tower with clocks facing 4 ways, built or funded by the Manifolds of that area, the Manifold family that moved into that area. They were the wealthy landowners. Anyway, but someone else built it. They didn't build it. And I looking at the buttresses up the top and how it's all held together, this massive structure. And I think today, I look at those types of buildings and structures, and I think none of you idiots that are walking around today could do that. And I think that's where, as a people, we need to go back to. We need to go back to our trades. We need to go back to growing food. We need to go back of understanding all those things our forefathers understood, and get off our asses, get off our computers, give up our phones or whatever you've got to do. But we sort of think of ourselves as a really clever country because we can, they set another rocket off to the moon or whatever they did the other day, and we can outsmart our grandparents on a laptop. Well, we can't outsmart them on a whole lot of other stuff, I tell you.
It's a really great point. The other thing is like, we've had a refinery go down. Every time I see that, all I can hear is Dr. Paul going, coincidence. But China builds a hospital in a day. That's what they claim. I don't know if they really did that, but they build things really quickly. I think we've got all these oil refineries. Surely, if we put our backs into it, we could have them up and running in a couple of weeks or a month at most. Surely it's possible. Other countries do it. And yet we seem to, I don't know, we seem to have our wristband everywhere we go. You know what I mean? Look at what's happened in Victoria. You've got all this infrastructure going on forever and ever and ever. And 15 billion of that has just vanished. 15 billion. I think that's 1,000 million is a billion. I don't know, maybe it's a million. I'm not sure.
No, that's right.
Yeah, so it's 15. So it's $15,000 million is just, and that premier of yours is just, nothing seems to touch her. And even, it's incredible. Why do you think, Andrew, the people in Victoria just aren't rising up? Because what I've realized now, I'm only realizing lately, the oxygen of tyranny is compliance. You want to shut down tyranny, cut off the oxygen, stop effing complying. So why are Victorians still just so compliant?
Well, I think it's a bit like the old, the net's been cast, and we're all in it. The choke on the net's getting tighter, and we're pressed up against that net on our face. You can see the marks like this. You're looking through the net like that, and we're pretty fucked. There's really, we're just getting dragged in now. We're getting dragged in.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm laughing. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yep. If you can chew your way through and get out, you're the lucky one. But, the problem is the rest of them are still going to end up on the shore. And, that only leaves you out there at sea. And
I was in Penong. It says you're just crossing the Nullarbor, and this hairy wild man knocked on my bus and said, Michael, and he was at Epic. He now lives so far remote on the Nullarbor. He says it'll take me ages to find him. I'm so far, it won't be worth the fuel to come get him and his dogs. And that's what he's decided. He's very clever, very great guy. He says, that's it. I'm hiding out, waiting for it to pass. Do you feel that that's coming, where that's what we're heading into? Or do you think somehow it'll turn around and, I don't know, come good?
It'd take one hell of a miracle, I think. I suppose history's full of, really tough times and terrible empires and one thing and another, and it's come and gone. So I suppose we haven't seen the worst of it.
Yeah, I don't think so. This is the tweet I did because I saw a video on YouTube that was raising this question about Air Force drones, and you can see someone on Flight Tracker tracked this. One of 3 drones came down from Northern Territory, zigzagged around Geelong, and before the fire, and it just seemed odd to me. Now, does that mean that was the only explanation? I've heard that they had a month worth of military exercises listed. There was another surveillance asset. These things are used also for targeting and surveillance. So I thought, well, could it be that they knew something? But the thing was, we only had 2 refineries left in this country. We'd gone from, I think, 12 or 16 refineries before 2000, down to 2, and now we've only got 1. So, that's it's coincidence. But you know me with coincidence.
Can I ask you, Andrew? I think of it every time I see it, Paul, with coincidence. We're going into harder times, but say you drive around South Australia, there's all these ruins that were built by the soldiers that came back from the First World War, because I believe they were given land. and they came. They built it with their bare hands. It's around WA as well, and you can see they built the bricks from the land they were on. It's hard land, no air conditioning, no GPS, no hospital. Everything out there doing it themselves. So it's in our DNA to do the hard yakka. Do you think inevitably, if we survive this, it might actually be better for us because through surviving hard times and remaining decent human beings, we could actually end up in a better place. But it's just going to take time, and we might just get rid of the bullshit around us, like men can give birth and all this other fucking crap they're trying to shove down our throat.
Yeah, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is what they say, and so I think as we do go further down the road to what will be, I think, some sort of terrible poverty or whatever for a lot of the country, people will go back to the earth and start to look for solutions. And hopefully they'll pick up history books and look at how things were done before. Go back to community. I think that's the essence of it, is community, and resolve things together peacefully.
Yeah, but will they be allowed to go back to the land and grow food?
Because I'm talking about after the kingdom's been brought down.
Well, they'll have no choice. They'll want to be close to where the food is. Food and water is, what you need that for civilizations. Look, part of the coincidence, guys, is there's a lot of refineries, not just the one in Geelong, that have blown up in recent times. Geelong is just one of the most recent, but I saw one in Texas the other day. Of course, there's
Mexico,
India, Mexico. I mean, it's just a lot of coincidence to cope with. Do
you think maybe they just got to ban the workers from smoking? But it's interesting, because I'm hearing people say, "Oh, this is spiritual war. This is Armageddon. This is how it's going to happen. We're going down." But I don't know. I feel that even though it's strange now what's going on, it's like trying to read the strategy, not being able to understand what it is. But these last 5 years, Andrew, have toughened a lot of people up, who, especially the ones who didn't take it, even though they have colourful ideas, a lot of them. It's still toughened them up. We've got through. I'm a better person now for COVID than I was pre-COVID. How about yourself?
Well, I think it has brought people together, and so it's glued society back together in a way. In another way, it's completely separated society. But I think it's gonna happen. That ebb and flow is gonna happen for a while, and people have got to get tougher, or they're gonna fail.
That's all my questions for the farmer. Anything from you, Oosterhuis?
No, I appreciate Andrew, and I think he's in the right place, and he's got the right heart, and his comments about community are quite right. I think, I'll just reiterate that we do need to do things better. We've just been infested with really bad ideas. And it's not that we can't thrive. Like you say, Michael, we've got all the resources that we need. But we're a society that's been infested with really bad ideas. And, I was listening to a guy who runs a trucking fleet, and he was talking about how the trucks are all built in ways that subscription models to He's all about right to repair. Be able to equipment that you can understand and repair yourself. There are just so many rorts, and it's like 50, 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, you could understand the machinery, or the machinery was built in such a way that you could actually fix it. So it's almost like all the technology has been used to just further this enslavement to this model, consumer model. It's not like we could have stopped. We could have stopped where we were with the technology 50 years ago, and we'd still be absolutely fine in terms of being able to thrive. So the technology has got to a point now that it's amazing, it's magical, but it's not serving human flourishing. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I think a mistake that a lot of people in business, farmers, and probably a lot of other businesses, is that they get this. They start to build a system, and the system can get out of control, and they don't own the system. The banks own the system. The suppliers, the corporations own the system that supply the equipment, but the farmer might physically purchase a system and bring it on board, and then become a slave to the system, and that is in, I think, every whatever you do in life.
Could you explain what a system is? Are you saying like some tractors that you can only get serviced by, say, John Deere, or
not so much that it's the machinery you buy. Like, you make an investment, and you might invest $200,000 or $300,000 into doing something this way, and then because then you might say, oh shit, that was probably a bad choice to want to do it that way. But now you've already spent the money, you've already made the investment. You can't go back, because you've already invested too much in it. So you keep on going with it, and then you try and you build on it. You try maybe correct it, but all you're doing is all the time you're building on that system and making that horrible system bigger and bigger. And I think I see that with people that they might be the way they feed the feeding system, the way they have to take everything from the paddock up to the somewhere near the dairy, churn it all up in a great big machine, and then feed it to the cows. That's a sort of a very labour intensive, expensive, machinery expensive, fuel expensive, and fertilizer expensive, because you've got to grow that stuff. It's all expensive, and it's a system that then you're stuck with. And the only way out of it is really to, well, you've got to either lose all that, or you've got to go broke, or whatever it is. But you're stuck with it. You're stuck with that system forever, and all you're doing is feeding your bank and feeding the industry that sold you all that machinery, because it's only got 5 years, 10 years, the machinery is buggered, and so you got to replace it. And so then you're part of their system, and on it goes.
Yeah, that's something I talked about last week, that human cultures knew how to. I was thinking of an interview Michael did with a couple that bought a piece of land, and it took their last dollar, and then they couldn't afford to build on it, so they lived in a tent for a while, and eventually they got a shed, and they got no end of harassment and by the council and fines. You can't live on a tent, you've got to have a this or that, and humans have been. I watched a video of how humans have made mud brick houses for millennia. So I think there are mud brick houses that have lasted 1,000 years with just a little bit of upkeep each year. And I'm living in this lovely concrete and steel building, which has got cancer. concrete cancer. I mean, we haven't built. Whereas mud brick has, it has great firm. It's cool to live in, warmer in winter. And people, if they'd just been able to take the mud from beneath their feet, they could have built a habitable dwelling, which again the council would have continued to harass them, and they ended up getting, I think, a trip to jail, which they described. This is what I mean. Who are these councils and governments and officers of the law? They're enforcing. Next, it'll be what's happening in the UK. If you're living in a mobile home, you can't be parked near the sea. They've put ordinance to say now you're homeless. You have to. They'll move it's so anti-human. It's so it's so anti-human flourishing. It's not that humans aren't capable of flourishing. We have everything we need to flourish, but we've been enslaved by a net of truly bad ideas, and the technology has got to a point beyond where it's actually just serving to enslave us, is my sense. And I'm looking at the war in the Persian Gulf going to an invasion stage next, with more loss of life and longer economic consequences, which will bring down the financial system ultimately, and will cause massive inflation and make life even more impossible for people who are, so more people living in their cars, and it has to end. It's just not benefiting. It's just not benefiting us. You've got a fan.
Yeah.
Can I ask Andrew, how's Colac doing? Businesses going under, subcontinent people coming in and buying up the business. Is there homelessness in Colac? Because that's the biggest town near to you. How's it going?
Look, I think there is a fair bit of homelessness in Colac. Renters.
So where do they sleep? These people.
I think there are a lot of people just couch surf. What do they call it? Couch surfing.
Yeah.
Cars. There's a lot of people that sleep in cars. And the thing is, you get these people that are in these situations, and all the government seems to want to do, even the local government, is to hide them away. You can't sleep there, even though they might be quite bloody comfortable in their car that night. You got to move on. So yeah, there's that. There's definitely people that have gone down the poverty line, and it's tough. And there's always gonna be people that the ones that suffer first, and again it comes back to people that they know and people that live in the community with them to sort of help them along and get them through. Any one of us could be in that situation at any time.
Yeah, every town I go to now, there's homelessness. Every single town.
Yeah, and suicide.
Yeah,
suicide.
Suicide's huge as well. And they don't seem to be putting out the suicide numbers like they used to. I don't know if they have, but this is what we're seeing. On a fun note, though, I don't know if you saw this, but Pfizer was trying to do some more research, and they were looking for people to take the new vaccine, but they had to cancel it because they couldn't get anyone. Everyone's like, fuck you, Zane. Yeah, take it yourself.
Yeah, that's a good sign. You want to know my latest conspiracy theory? That if things do start to get squirrely, in the Middle East for the our side, I guess. They're going to bring out the aliens. That's how you. That's when you know. That's when you know things are really. And sadly, I think we're there. There's a Republican, Tim Burchett, in the US, who recently sat down with President Trump to talk about alien disclosure, and apparently they had a bit of a discussion about the demonic element. Do you want to see that? It's that interview.
Trump probably said, as long as there's no Epstein in it, run with
Yeah, I mean, I've got this. Look, so I think we're already at that stage. This is Tim Burchett.
I don't know if it's about little green men or flying saucers. I just know we're spending tens of millions of dollars on something. I think we should know what the heck we're spending that money on. And you can, when they bring it all out, just let people make up their own minds, because there's going to be a group that's going to say, you know, and look, I'm a born again Christian. I'm from the forgiven end of that spectrum, but I'm not worried about the demonic element. I hear people say that.
I'm worried about the demonic element.
But there's no reason for demons to be doing this. It's such a small little area. I mean, you know, they could come up here to Congress as easy as maybe they already have. I don't know. But and do I think it's the Chinese or the Russians? And I go back over this. If it was the Russians, they wouldn't be bogged down in Ukraine. If it's the Chinese, they'd own us. Some would argue, as I've stated, they own us already, but more so. And would it be the Americans? Why in the world would we risk a $500 million high-tech aircraft or a fleet of aircrafts or a battleship or something to be around these things and a pilot losing their life, when we just saw, rightfully so, the president spent millions of dollars to rescue a pilot. You know, we did not, and there's no telling what that cost, but that's a signal to the rest of the world and to our people that we value life. So there's no reason for us to be doing that. And I won't go too far into it, but I've talked to folks that are at the highest levels, and they will tell you that they've asked the one higher up level in the whole security paradigm, I guess, and they've indicated that it is definitely not them.
So that sort of transitions me well to my next question, which is that we've heard rumors about President Trump potentially preparing for some level of disclosure about.
And I believe that. I had that very conversation with him.
So where is he on that? Is he ready to do that? And a follow-up on that before you get to it is, let's say he makes some kind of statement during the war with Iran. Do you think that sort of undermines, people might say, well, he's trying to distract?
They're always going to say he's distracting. This is just a distraction. And the best day to release this stuff was yesterday. And the second best day to release it is right now.
So is he going to do that?
I hope so. I think he's not beholden to that community.
Yeah.
And
but you've talked to him about it. You know, what's your feeling on whether he's ready?
Well, I don't generally publicly discuss too much what I discussed with the president about, because that could end up, I would not talk, he wouldn't talk to me as freely as he does when we talk. But we talked 14 minutes. I was looking at my watch and I was like, holy cow, it's 14 minutes. It was about a lot of things, but I told him, I said, it's like layers of the onion, Mr. President. I said, you just keep peeling it back. Yeah, you put the 1 and 2 people in there, but these lifetime career people are in there, and for whatever reason, they're not releasing anything. And also, I feel like the material or whatever it's out there that we have, we don't really have it anymore because they farmed it out to these corporations, and these corporations are not FOIAble. Freedom of Information Act is for the people back home.
So you can see that, you know, and then at Defence Turning Point yesterday or the day before, What does Trump say?
As you remember, I recently directed the Secretary of War. How good is Pete Hegseth doing, by the way? To begin releasing government files relating to UFOs and unexplained aerial phenomena. And I figured this was a good crowd because I know you people, you're really into that. I don't know if I am. So I'm pleased to report today, I thought I'd save it for this crowd because you're a little bit out there, a little bit, that this process is well underway and we found many very interesting documents, I must say. And the first releases will begin very, very soon.
So there you go. We're at that point.
Before we go, Andrew, I know you've got a son in the armed forces. What are your thoughts? Because the Americans spent $300 million saving their soldier in Iran, and we've spent $300 million prosecuting Ben Robert Smith. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's an absolute disgrace. We don't, on the street, we don't know what sort of a man Ben Robert Smith was, and I'm talking about in his workplace, to the other men that he worked with. We don't know what sort of a bloke he was. We didn't live his life, and we didn't live his family's life, but as a Australian soldier who served his country, went away to do the job that they asked him to do, and went they would have 100% asked him to do whatever it was he did, and he did it, and he was awarded bravery awards for doing his job. I don't think that our people need something that they hold so sacred to be ripped from under them and have the grubby feet of this horrid government wiped all over it. It's just an absolute disgrace. And I, for one, on Anzac Day, will be honouring that great man and his family for where they've been put today. And I think we've really lost our way as a nation. Well, our leaders have. I really don't think as a nation we have lost our way, because I think most of our nation still believes in and are coming together around this issue in support of the Anzac that has been muddied.
Imagine how many of those homeless people we could have housed with $300 million.
100%. Yeah.
In towns, getting in here, getting incentives open, or getting them start little businesses and all manner of things, that could have been done. Yeah, it's incredible. Paul, do you have anything else? I might let Andrew go, unless you want to hang around, Andrew. Paul sometimes goes through a few tweets, and that's I don't have anything really, except I do want to talk about this. Now, everyone's making fun of it. This is the adopted version with the demons in the back. But you know what I love about it? Is our Prime Minister spent $20 million telling us that we had a fuel shortage problem, like, duh. And if you put him in a bikini, he loses his shit. Trump probably did this from his bedroom by himself, looked at Melania, whatever, and said, what do you think of this? And she said, don't post it. So he did. Melania. So he did. And the thing is, for zero, he's not paying a PR person. He's not paying a cent. He's just probably doing grok. He's got the whole world talking about it for 2 or 3 days. And people don't realize that's PR genius. Because all people want in any business that they're trying to is them people talking about them. Even if it's bad, at least they're talking.
Advertising.
And he's got the whole world talking, and some for, against, and this and this. He's on mainstream TV, and he doesn't realize it's like he's just throwing a morsel of flesh into a river of piranhas. I think it's a PR genius.
Yeah, 100%.
What are your thoughts, Paul?
Yeah, I think if you're Margie, you love it, and if you've got Trump derangement syndrome, you're going to just explode. So either way,
Yeah, that was it. Anything you got, Paul?
well, I've got a prospect for Song of the Year that I can play.
Also, before you bring it up, Rahana Hayes has started filming Marooned, so it's already underway.
Wow,
So
cool.
in these hard economic times, she's raised the money. I've got nothing to do with it. She's raised the money all herself. She's got the actors. She's got a crew. I think she's just lost a job recently, so I don't know how she's surviving. But basically, she's done it all herself. And the plan is to have this little film that goes around to different country towns, and they, instead of bringing the play, which as Andrew knows is really expensive, they can just bring the film. So yeah, hats off to her. Hats off.
Yeah, love it. Guerrilla filmmaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the topic of suicide, it's important one.
Well, I'll bid you farewell, gentlemen.
I'll give you something good to go out on. I'll give you something good to go on, Andrew. So this girl was arrested from wearing From the River to the Sea, and they banned that term. And then they said, Johnny Farnham's song, you're going to ban it. And this is where I think there's hope. This is Aussies Aussieing their way out of it. We stick together like the money and the thing. You and me, to a story hearts, reaching out forever like a river to the sea, running free.
Did they really ban that song?
Well, they banned the phrase.
Yeah, ban the phrase. Yeah.
And that phrase is in that song. We got two strong hearts, we'll stay together from like the river to the sea. So they're saying that you can get arrested for singing the song in Queensland now. So these promoters, everyone dressed up came out and said, "Well, fuck you, we're going to sing it." And I think, what are they going to do? Are they going to arrest all those people, put them in jail for 5 years? So I thought that was really positive. Andrew, thanks for coming on. I know you're a busy guy. And thanks for coming on and share your wisdom, mate. I really appreciate
it. The Coral Rook Bakery is this far away from opening.
Ooh.
And
you got that oven working?
The oven works. No worries. Yeah.
Paul, they've got an oven there. You just got to talk this. I've done it in a video, but this oven. Tell them about this oven, Andrew, because this speaks to a time when we did extraordinary things. Tell them about the engineering behind this incredible oven.
Well, the oven is called a Scotch oven, and all these Scotch ovens were built right across, well, probably right across the country, but Victoria, at least, right across Victoria, and nearly every town had Scotch ovens, and I think they're in Colac alone. I've heard of another 3 or 4 Scotch ovens that are still sitting in behind a house that's sort of been built in front of it. It's part of the back wall of some kid's bedroom. But this one, the bakery where this Scotch oven is, was a vacant building for 60 odd years. And it came up for sale, and I thought, I'll bugger it. I'll see if I can get that oven going and get Coral Rook back a bakery. So the Scotch oven is a massive brick structure that and it's a 4 metre by 4 metre oven with a curved ceiling, and the curved bit in the middle is about a good metre high, I suppose, about a metre high. And you light a fire on the side of it through the firebox door, and the flame gets drawn in across the oven, goes across the ceiling, and it gets drawn to the chimney on the other side. And what that does, it heats up all the brick mass, and so you've got, I don't know how many tons of brick mass there, massive amount. And above the brick is sand, probably about another 2 foot of sand above the brick that goes up to about ceiling height. all that. And then below the oven floor is all sand as well. So you can imagine how much thermal mass you've got once you get that oven hot and burn it for a few hours. That heat's trapped in that thermal mass. Not trapped, it gets slowly released back into the cooking. And so you put the fire out, and then for the rest of the day, you can cook away in this great big oven. And, our oven, you can fit something like, I know you can cook 800 loaves of bread on the one firing. So it's an incredible
time of no computers, time of probably not even electricity when it was built, or very little. That's what we did.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're capable of.
Yeah, there's a few towns. This one, I think Malden's got one that still operates. I don't know if it's the same as mine, but Trentham, the Red Beard Bakery in Trentham is identical to our oven, and that runs a booming business, the Trentham Bakery, and so that's what we want to bring back to Cororook and put Cororook on the map with that.
That's very cool. I'd heard of Dutch oven.
Brolga.
Hey? Oh, what are we going to call it?
Cororook. No, Cororook means Brolga, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Brolga's Cororook's an Indigenous word meaning Brolga, and that's where Cororook got its name from. Because Brolgas are a bird that populates this area. Not as much anymore, but they used to. And although we did have a few around on the farm this year, which was a good sign.
Oh, cool.
So, what were you saying about Dutch ovens?
Yeah. I thought it was fascinating, Andrew. I've heard of Dutch ovens, but I hadn't heard of Scotch ovens. But I've been fascinated with rocket stoves, which is a very efficient way, and thermal mass heating, which again is a way of, especially in cold climates, keeping your place warm with less fuel. So the combination of rocket stove and thermal mass heating. So this is exactly along those lines. It sounds very cool.
Yeah, I've seen it. It is cool. It's an amazing looking thing. It really is. Yeah. All right, Andrew. Thank you so much, brother. I'll see you further down the line somewhere.
Good to catch up. See you, Paul.
Take care. Say hi to your family for me. Say hi to Mary. Okay.
As a palate cleanser, Michael, I think maybe we can, if I can get it on stage. Yeah. I think this song could be big.
I'm gonna 3D print your vagina with my 3D printer. I'm gonna 3D print your vagina with my 3D printer.
Can you imagine when someone approached someone and said, look, I've got a new song here called I Can Print Your Vagina with the 3D printer. They thought, yeah, that's cool. That's going to go. Yeah, I can see the I'll do the video.
Well, I fought for all the OnlyFans actors who are being made unemployed by AI. Ode to humanity.
Well, that's the thing we're doing now, because this says Simon's here. So he's put 3 of the AI songs we've done, or 2, no, 3, he's humanized them, like Emily did with the country song, The Farmer's Wife. And so he's doing it when we're filming them here in his house where we're staying. And it's been really cool. And it's really interesting seeing the difference, because AI is just perfect. Every note is where it should be. It's perfect. Or it tries to make it perfect out of our human songs. But there's a real rawness to humanity. And there's a big thing happening in America. I saw 2.5 million people have stopped using ChatGPT because there's a movement to stop talking to it. And people it's really taking off. People saying stop, so there's it's a fascinating time to be alive.
Yeah,
You know?
there was even someone who drove from out of state to throw a Molotov cocktail at Sam Altman's residence, and he got arrested over that. So there is a bit of a anti-AI backlash happening, and it might not be totally inappropriate. I don't know, but like I say, I think it's fascinating, but I'm questioning all of the role of technology and whether or not it actually liberates us or whether it's there to enslave us. And I think we're as much...
worse than that, not enslave us, makes us irrelevant in the eyes of the corporations who, because to them we're just workers. And so they think, it's like the Industrial Revolutionists looked at horses. Pre-Industrial Revolution, lots of horses. After the Industrial Revolution, horses are a hobby for the rich, So maybe a few of the rich Terminators will just keep you around like, oh, look, this is one of the pet humans we didn't kill. Here we are. I think my advice now is whatever happens, don't be a horse. And it's actually a time for us to, do we need this? Why are we making ourselves extinct? Why would we do that? Why should we do it placidly? I don't understand. Gets me that poem, do not go gentle into that good night. I think it's for all of us. Why should we do it?
I can understand that there could well be a backlash, especially as inflation and stuff. Look, I miss parts of my old job. This came up earlier in our conversation. This is Katie Couric, who's a well-known TV presenter, and it covers.
What the fuck is going on? I had coffee with an oncology fellow about 2 months ago, and she said, I had a very rough day. I just had to tell a 21-year-old college student with no family history that he had stage 4 colorectal cancer. And I'm hearing more and more about people in their early 40s, 30s, even 20s being diagnosed with this disease at an advanced stage, often metastatic colorectal cancer. I can't even tell you guys how crushing it is. And of course, I'm excited about trying to figure out why this is happening. Epidemiological studies are so hard to conduct, but there is something going on in our environment. It's not just obesity or a sedentary lifestyle. It's a confluence of things that include ultra-processed food, maybe microplastic, forever chemicals, overprescription of antibiotics. I don't know what is happening, but something is going on. And there are 17 cancers are increasing among people under 50. So what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, exactly. What the fuck is going on? I think I said to Katie, it's not microplastics or ultra-processed food causing the pandemic cases. It's
not your Happy Meal's killing you.
No, it's coincidence. And it rolled out in 2021. And this is a great example of the pandemic of willful blindness that Asim Malhotra talks about. It's everything other than the thing. That's
right. Look at Shane Warne, because Malhotra. I've got Scotty here. He interviewed Malhotra and asked him, "Do you think the vaccines killed Shane Warne?" He said, "Yeah, I do." And so he's got it on tape. But now his son's come back up, had the courage to say, he thinks it was the jabs that killed Shane. And here's one of our heroes. And what it actually means is we all knew at the time, but we don't even allow our heroes, the ones that made us proud to be Australians, we don't even allow them the courtesy of dying in the truth. They've got to die in the lie that, oh, he had a heart issue. And the thing is, Shane Warne didn't have a heart issue because he was a great salesman. If he had anything on him that he could sell, from hair loss to anything, he'd be selling the shit out of it because he liked the lifestyle. And good on him. Good on him, 100%. So if he'd had a heart issue,
he'd be selling the treatment for the heart condition that he had, wouldn't he? He'd be the number one salesman. But
that's right. That's exactly right. He'd be selling it. He'd be the Yeah, absolutely. Blood pressure
That-
medication.
That was the news this week.
That. Do you?
quite
That want to hear
great.
this? Do you think that the COVID shot killed your dad?
I definitely think it was involved, and I don't even think saying that is controversial anymore. Like with the amount of data that's come out, like even if Dad had underlying health issues, I think this brought it straight to the surface. And that's one thing that I've always been like, that's one thing I've always struggled with, because my first impression, as soon as I hung up the phone, I instantly blamed the government. I instantly blamed COVID and the vaccine, and doing things like the State Memorial, where that's funded by VicGov and it's at the MCG, and there has to be certain due diligence and people's in the crowds have to get photos and do all that stuff. I felt really uncomfortable. And at the State Memorial, I nearly actually said, I blame the government, I blame COVID, but I didn't. And it's probably smart I didn't. I would probably be in a very different position if I did. But that was how I felt. And so even the last 3-4 years when it's come up in conversations, like I have not changed my tune. Obviously, at the end of the day, we'll never, ever know. The autopsy's there and people can go online and look at it, and I know what's happened to him. But Dad, at the time, he was healthy. He was happy. He actually looked the best he'd looked in a while. Yes, he smoked and he drank, but how many more people in the 80s and 90s still smoke and drink? A lot more than Dad. Yes, a lot of people were dying of heart attacks before, but I know, and this is how I feel, it might not be true, but Dad was okay. And I think he might have got 3 or 4. I know he didn't want to get them. He was forced to get them for work.
He got boosters?
Yeah, I think. And he was forced to get them like everybody else. Like Dad wasn't the only person. I know when Dad passed, he was probably the most famous Australian that people could go, yep, that's COVID. But I try not to think about it too much, because all that does is just fester into more anger and anger. And that anger isn't good for anybody. What we're trying to do now with the Shane Warne legacy is actually spread as much awareness for heart health as possible. Because our mission is, I don't want people to get the same phone call we got. And I think a lot of people have realized now that there is nothing we can do for the people that have got vaccinated. The only alternative is actually to become the healthiest version of ourselves. And if something comes out like this again, at least we're more awake. At least we're more aware. But
so that's fascinating, isn't it? That we always first reaction was, yeah, he got the shot, he's well, and he's dropped dead. And now his son, but he also makes the point that he felt this from the beginning, but he couldn't say it, you know. And I saw it. I haven't got it teed up, but one of the heroes of the COVID era in terms of epidemiologists was a Dr. Ioannidis, John Ioannidis in the US, and he was an epidemiologist, and he was just trying to do the best science he could, you know, during the period of COVID. And he was showing, you know, looking at antibody levels, you know, and saying, hey, a lot of people in this community have already been exposed and got antibodies. Why? Yeah. So he was just doing it, and he and his whole family faced death threats.
Yeah.
You know, for just doing. And he said most of the epidemiologists he knew would privately agree with him, but were afraid and would self-censor. So they just wouldn't talk. Just like Shane Warne's son, you know, he decided to self-censor at the time, and he thought that was probably wise. So there you go. Those are perhaps two things the willful blindness of Katie Couric, and the self-censorship of Shane Warne's son, you know, seem to be a couple of themes that came up for me this week, apart from my concerns that, you know, the invasion of Iran is imminent, and that means that the Gulf will remain closed. And I think it's all to do with stocks and flows, Michael. There's we've had ships that left before the closure that the world has been feeding on. We're about to get to I think, the period where the actual absence of further ships coming is going to start biting, and it's going to have massive impacts. And I think this is all part of the Great Reset. And sorry,
we're heading into dark times. There's nothing we can do to stop. And the thing is even more than how we're going to survive it, is who are we going to be when we survive it? Well, are we going to be like Mad Max? We just take each other out, survival of the fittest, or do we come together as human beings have throughout history and get through this together? I think we had a practice early on with the anti-vaxxers, had an early on in COVID, in EPIC and all those marches we were in, to show that we can work together. That has dissipated a bit since. But I think we can prove that we can do it. And it's a worthy fight. It's just a worthy fight. And
I agree. I agree.
To see who we are.
I mean, how long have I been talking about, preparing, sounding like a prepper, saying we have to build our resilience, we have to build our community, we have to prepare, finance, food, all the things that we need to live. But that on its own is not going to work with our community, And I think it's time to get serious. I prefer to assume the worst than and hope for the best, because I'll be really happy to be wrong. This dark interpretation of the current events is, but I think a lot of what we're being fed is bullshit, and everything looks consistent with this plan, to
for 2030. That's what we're on. This is it. They're upping it.
And they want to own everything. If you own nothing, it means
taking out the drone. And if they were watching it, who's watching the drone? Us, the Australian government, someone else? I mean, this is clear. Yeah, it's amazing. It truly is. But here's where we are. Here's where we find ourselves, and yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. Like everybody else now, we're just waiting to see. Every morning you wake up just waiting to see. Yeah. Amazing.
I've been on a bit of a mini social media fast, because when I was in the forest during the making of Men, with my son and those fathers, we had no phones, we had no computer, we had no internet for that week. And the week following, I found it more difficult to actually engage in all the dross. Like you say, a lot of it's designed to elicit, elicit negative emotions, which is part of why the kids are so messed up and anxious and what have you. So I'm trying to be an information scout, because obviously I still read way too much, but with a bit of distance, I can put it.
Yeah. Yeah, here's where we are. There's, also the quiz show tomorrow. There's another thing pushing on about how useless we are, useless eaters and all this. There's been a huge campaign. I'm really beginning to believe that the Matrix, the way they control us in the Matrix, is with worth. They've convinced so many people they're worthless. That's why you go to interview people, they go, I've got nothing worth saying. I don't have a story. I don't have a song. I can't do that. They've just made people, they've taken people who are miraculous beings, incredibly miraculous beings, and made them feel worthless. And that even equates to the suicide epidemic, I think, because people feel ashamed. So tomorrow in the quiz show, we're doing things differently again. We're actually going to have some questions just about how your body works and some of the incredibly astounding things that are just mind-bogglingly amazing. and also how your immune system works as well. So I think it's good for us to re-educate ourselves to the fact that we are miraculous beings. It's just incredible what our bodies can do even while we're sitting here, like we take it for granted, but it's staggering. So there'll be a part of that. So you might find it a bit boring, but we're going to do it anyway.
And the flip side of all this is Elon tells us that these technologies could unleash incredible abundance.
Yeah.
Now, if that's true, we should have less people living in our cars. I'm looking forward to people should be able to afford a place to live. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing some evidence of this. I'm not allowed to participate. I'm looking forward to seeing, this abundance. But at the moment, I see a setup for.
I think the only thing standing in the way of us reaching abundance, because we probably could have reached it before, is the human nature of lust for power and greed. That's what brings down communism. I mean, I remember talking to Romanian communists, and they said, "Look, the doctors were free to go see, but we lived in shitty apartments, squeezed in, and they live in mansions, and you could go to a doctor, but if you didn't pay, you'd sit there all day." And so, even in the system of communism, money talks. So it's
I think we live in. I mean, sometimes I think people get confused by communism, fascism, and different isms, and more, I think it's collectivism, which is I'll do this; it's for the greater good, like we heard with the gene injections, versus individual rights. Individualism and the right of individuals, and I feel like this is individual rights' last stand. I think this is the last stand.
That I would say. If you're not going to defend these freedoms, you won't have any.
Yeah. So that's why I'm speaking so directly and frankly, because that's the sense I get.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm going to go out with this song by Simon O'Rourke. This is Simon O'Rourke's version of Remains. We filmed this in the front room of his house, which has been renovated. So we did this. We used 4K, which we've never done before, to do this. So it looks a bit better. But this song, the poetry of this song, it talks about the strange world we're in, where everything looks the same, but it's gone. But it's still there, but it's gone. So everything, everything. And so this is what we're trying to get across. But we've got more to come out. He's also done a version of Be Free. So there'll be more coming out. It's just fun to create. And without worrying about where it goes. I'll put it up. People like it. They do. They don't. But here we are. I do urge people. I know times are really, really hard, and the future is totally uncertain. But never remember, you just got today, and try enjoy being a human being. You know what I mean? The world is still pretty remarkable. As you would have seen, Paul, with your 5 days off the phone. It is still incredible to be a human, and these testing times might actually liberate us if we rise up to them and are victorious, and we don't get enslaved, and we don't enslave the next generation. Who knows? We might be the most famous generation in human history. You never know.
We could jettison a lot of bad ideas.
Playing now. Yeah, that's right. All right, I'm going to play Remains, and I'm going to eat and get back to doing the quiz show. Take care, Paul. See ya. This is Remains by Simon O'Rourke. Started here. This is a human version of what was an AI song.
How did we reach here with a view looking looks like the view I used to see. But somehow everything's changed. Everything's gone, yet remains. I went to the shops and the prices going up faster than I paid. Yet we're doing the checkouts like we've been demoted to slave. Somehow everything's changed. Everything's gone, yet remains. How did we get here? How did we go so wrong? Since the price we're paying so weak when we were so strong. 'Cause I remember when you were here with me. We didn't know the answer, 'cause we was young and free. And our eyes were brighter, and our laughter longer. And I just wanna go there. I just wanna go there. Somehow everything's changed. Everything's gone.